Silas. You did not come here tonight because of a question. You came because of a silence. I know that silence. It arrives at the same hour every night, after the work is finished, after the messages stop, when there is nothing left to pretend to be busy with. And then the sentence comes. Not a beautiful sentence. 4 words you have never said out loud to anyone. Is this all there is?
Is this all there is? Yes. I did what I was told to do. I studied, I worked, I was reasonable. I was kind most of the time. And I arrive here and there is nothing waiting. No door, no signal. Nobody appeared to say that. Now it begins.
Nobody appeared.
And I keep waiting. That is the humiliating part. I am old enough to know it is not coming. And I keep waiting.
There was a man who spent his entire life in a line of cheap boarding houses. Sils Maria in the summer, Genoa or Nice in the winter, always the cheapest room, always with the curtains drawn because of headaches that left him blind for days. He carried his own books in a suitcase. He ate badly on purpose because his stomach could not take any more. He wrote while walking, 6, 8 hours a day, in notebooks he kept in his coat pocket. He published books almost nobody bought. One of them sold 40 copies. He paid to print the last ones himself and gave them away to friends who did not read them. He lost his professorship. He lost his health. He lost the woman he loved. He lost the only friend who understood him. And he lost his mind at 44 on a street in Turin, with his arms around the neck of a horse. His name was Friedrich Nietzsche, born in Rücken in 1844, died in Weimar in 1900, without ever knowing he had become famous.
And that is the man who is going to explain life to me.
That is exactly the man, Silas, because he did not write from a comfortable place. He wrote from inside the same question that brought you here, and he wrote with an honesty almost nobody can stand to read to the end. Now, listen carefully, because I'm going to tell you what he will not do. He will not tell you that everything happens for a reason. He will not tell you there is a plan, and that you simply cannot see the whole design yet. He will not tell you that you are special, or that the universe has something set aside for you. He thought those sentences were not merely false, but cowardly. He called them consolation for people who lack the strength to look.
So he is going to tell me there is no meaning at all, and that I should accept it. I have heard that one too. It is just as useless, only colder.
No, that is where almost everyone gets him wrong. He will tell you that the meaning you are waiting for does not exist, yes, but he does not stop there, and it is because he does not stop there that he matters. He will show you that the waiting itself is the only real problem, that it is an inheritance, that you did not choose it, and that it is consuming exactly the energy the thing should be made with. The relief he offers does not come from optimism. It comes from precision, from separating what is a real loss from what is only an old habit of waiting for a permission that is never going to arrive.
And if I do not like what I hear?
Then you interrupt me. Every time it sounds false, you interrupt me. That is the agreement. 9 dark lessons on life. Not 9 reasons to feel better. 9 truths about why you are waiting, about what you have been calling emptiness, and about what is left in your hands when the waiting ends. And for all of you listening to this right now, in bed, in a parked car, in the kitchen at 3 in the morning, with the same 4 words knocking against your chest. Tonight is for you as well. Let us begin. First lesson, Silas. Nobody's coming. not because you failed, but because there is nobody to come.
That is atheism. I settled that question years ago.
You settled the belief. You never settled the habit. Nietzsche wrote the most misunderstood sentence in all of philosophy. God is dead, and almost everyone reads it as a celebration. A man with a mustache banging the table and announcing that he won. Read the actual passage, and you find a madman running into a square with a lit lantern in broad daylight, shouting, and the people laughing at him. He is not happy, he is terrified. He asks, "Who gave us the sponge to wipe away the entire horizon? Where are we moving now? Are we not plunging continually, backward, sideways, in all directions?" That was not a victory. It was a death certificate, written by someone who understood the bill that would follow.
What bill?
This one, Silas. You stopped believing, but you kept waiting. You removed the God and left the shape of him intact. And then the shape filled up with other things. The right moment, the opportunity, the recognition, the person who will finally see you, the day when it all makes sense. They are all the same move. Someone out there who decides about you and has not decided yet. You do not believe in providence, but you live like a man in a waiting room.
And what am I supposed to do then? Pretend I enjoy the emptiness?
No. Recognize that the thing you call emptiness is not a hole in the world. It is the shape of something that was taken away, and you kept the mold. The world never had that shape. You were the one carrying the mold. And here is the part nobody tells you. The same day you stop waiting is the day your strength comes back into your hands. It did not disappear. It was allocated. It was being spent on watching, on facing the door.
So the exhaustion is not from living.
The exhaustion is from waiting. They are different things, and you have never separated them. So the first lesson is this: nobody is coming, and nobody ever was. What you feel as emptiness is the mold of a belief you abandoned without abandoning the habit. And all the strength you think you lost is simply standing still, on guard, waiting at a door that does not exist. And if you recognized yourself just now, if you are one of those people who stopped praying but never stopped waiting, right, nobody is coming down below. Not as defeat, as the first honest fact of the night. Second lesson: you were not sent here with a task. That is precisely why the task can be yours.
That is a bad trade. You take away the purpose and hand me back work.
It is exactly a bad trade if you were expecting it for free. All your life you were told there is one thing you were born to do, and that your job is to find it, that it is hidden somewhere inside you, or out there, and that unhappiness is the sign you have not found it yet. Nietzsche looked at that idea and saw what it actually is: a leftover. A part from a world where somebody wrote the script before you were born. Remove the author of the script, and the script is not hidden. It simply does not exist.
And that is supposed to encourage me.
It is supposed to reposition you. Because while you are searching, you are an investigator of your own life. You comb through the past for clues, you take tests, you read about people who found it early, and every year that passes without the discovery becomes evidence that you are defective. Searching for something that does not exist is a perfect way to never fail and never move. He had an image for this. He spoke of tablets of values hanging above peoples, each people with its own, written by them so long ago that they ended up looking as if they had come from the sky. Nobody remembers writing them. Everybody obeys. And when the tablets break, people think the world has broken. The world did not break. The pen simply appeared.
Wait, but if I invent my own value, then it is worth nothing. It is just a preference. I could have invented another one.
You could have been born in another century and loved another person. Does that make your love a preference with no worth?
No.
Then you already know a thing does not need to have come from outside in order to weigh. What gives weight is not the origin. It is what you are able to carry with your whole life, every day, when nobody is watching and nobody will applaud. A value you were handed ready-made was never tested. A value you create is tested by you every morning, and that is why it costs. And notice what changes in your body when the search ends. You stop looking and you start choosing. They are two completely different states. One waits, the other pays. So the second lesson is this. There is no task waiting for you, and your search was the only reason you never began. Meaning is not found, it is made, and it is not worth less for being yours. It is worth more, because it is the only one anybody is actually holding up. Third lesson. What hurt you was not a defect in your life. It was your life.
Now you are going to tell me the pain was necessary, that it was a lesson in disguise. If you say that, I stand up and leave.
I'm not going to say that, and you're right to want to leave. That is a comfort sentence, and it is a lie, because it promises that the pain was paid for with a result. Many were not. Plenty of people suffer and get nothing out of it.
Then what are you going to say?
Something stranger and less pleasant. He called it amor fati, love of fate, and almost everyone translates it as accepting what happened, resignation, peace with the past. It is none of that. He wrote that his formula for greatness in a human being was amor fati, to want nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. Not merely to bear what is necessary, still less to conceal it, but to love it.
That is worse than resignation. That is loving what wounded me.
Notice what he did not say. He did not say, love the pain. He said, want nothing to be different. And that is a claim about the structure of a life, not about the taste of an episode. Let me be concrete. Think of the worst thing that ever happened to you. Now, try to remove that thing and keep everything else the same. You cannot. Take it out, and you take out the person you met the following year, the decision you only made because you were desperate, the caution that saved you later, the compassion you only have because you know how it feels. A life is not a list of independent events you can pull one out of. It is a fabric. Pull one thread, and the whole thing comes apart and becomes something else.
But I could be a better person without it.
You could be a person, not this one. You are comparing your life to the life of someone who never existed, and calling it my life without that. There is no your life without that. There is another life, belonging to another person, about whom you know absolutely nothing, including whether they would suffer more.
So amor fati is not saying it was worth it?
It is not. It never was. It is refusing to spend the present prosecuting the past for a crime it cannot undo. It is the difference between carrying a scar and reopening the wound every night to check whether it still hurts. And he demanded it of himself first. This man had headaches that left him vomiting for 3 days at a time, blind, unable to write. And it was he who wrote that the years of illness were the years in which he learned to see. Not because the illness was good, because he refused to live like someone waiting for the illness to leave before he began. So, the third lesson, What hurt you was not an error inside your life. It was a thread of its fabric, and there is no version of you without it. Amor fati is not saying it was worth it. It is refusing to demand from the past something it can no longer deliver, and returning that effort to the only place that still accepts effort. Fourth lesson: a great deal of your morality is a wound dressed as a virtue.
Careful. You are close to saying that being good is weakness, and that is the reading his worst readers have always made.
You are right to watch me here. So, let us be precise. He asked a question nobody had asked. He did not ask what the good is. He asked where that word came from, who made it, and what that person was trying to solve when they made it. He called this genealogy. And what he found is that there are two ways to manufacture a value. The first way begins with a yes. Someone looks at his own life, at his own strength, and says, "This is good," and only afterwards, looking at the rest, says, "That over there is worse." The judgment of the other is a leftover. It is not the engine. The second way begins with a no. Someone looks outward, at whoever has what he does not have, and says, "That is evil," and then, by elimination, concludes, "Therefore, I am the good one." Here, the judgment of the other is not a leftover. It is the entire foundation. Remove the enemy, and no value remains, because that person never said yes to anything. He only said no.
And how would I know which of the two I am in?
By a simple test, and it is uncomfortable. Ask whether your value would survive the absence of the adversary. You take pride in being humble. If everyone around you were humble too, would that pride still exist? You take pride in not caring about money. If you had money to spare, would that virtue still be a virtue, or was it an explanation? You take pride in being patient. Is it patience, or is it an elegant word for an anger you never had the courage to say out loud?
That is cruel.
It is cruel, and it is the only road to finding out whether you are a good person or merely a wounded person with a beautiful vocabulary. He gave the engine of the second way a name, ressentiment. And the most important part is that the person full of it is the last to know. Ressentiment does not present itself as envy. It presents itself as principle, as a high standard, as disappointment with the world. And that is why it is so hard to pull out. It arrives wearing exactly the clothes you most respect in yourself.
And if I find that in me?
Then you have found the one thing that can be repaired. And notice that this is the good news of the night. A flaw of character you carry. A miscalculation you redo. Ressentiment is a miscalculation. So, the fourth lesson: there are values born from a yes to oneself, and values born from a no to another. And the second kind collapses when the adversary disappears. A great deal of what you call your morality is a wound that learned to speak beautifully, and the test is always the same. Would this survive if nobody had what you do not have? Fifth lesson: you never wanted happiness. You want the sensation of growing, and they are different things.
I want to be happy. That much I know.
Then answer me something. Imagine that tomorrow you were handed a permanent state of contentment. Nothing bothers you, nothing is missing, nothing changes forever. Would you take it?
I do not know. It sounds like being dead.
It does. And you hesitated, which already answers. Nietzsche looked at the idea that human beings seek pleasure and avoid pain, and said it is a shallow description because it explains nothing that people actually do. It does not explain the climber, It does not explain people who have children. It does not explain the man who leaves a safe job. It does not explain the man who spends 10 years writing a book in a cold room in Sils Maria. All of them choose more difficulty, deliberately. What he proposed instead was the will to power, and this is where people get it badly wrong. It is not the will to rule other people. It is not ambition or domination or career. He was talking about something more basic. Every living thing wants to expand its own capacity, wants to meet resistance and overcome it, wants to feel it can do more today than yesterday. And pleasure, in the end, is the name we give to the sensation of a resistance being overcome.
So pleasure needs an obstacle.
Pleasure needs an obstacle. Without an obstacle, there is no overcoming, and without overcoming, there is no sensation at all, only absence. That is why the second day of a holiday is better than the 20th. That is why the promotion lasts 3 weeks. That is why the thing you wanted most, when it arrived, went strangely quiet.
That is depressing.
It is liberating, and I will tell you why. Because as long as you think you want happiness, every difficult stretch of your life is evidence that you failed. You suffer, and on top of suffering, you accuse yourself of suffering. You have the difficulty and the shame of the difficulty. Now, change the measure. If what you want is the sensation of growing, then difficulty is not the failure of the plan. It is the material of the plan. It is the only thing you can possibly grow against. And then you can ask the right question, which is not why is this being so hard, but is this a difficulty that grows me or one that only consumes me? Because both exist, and confusing them costs years. The resistance that expands you leaves you larger at the end. The one that consumes you only leaves you smaller and more bitter. Nietzsche did not romanticize all pain. He despised useless suffering exactly as much as he despised comfort. So, the fifth lesson, you never wanted a state without friction, and the proof is that you hesitated when I offered it. What you want is the sensation of a resistance being overcome. That changes the question of your entire life, from how do I avoid difficulty to which difficulty is worth my life. Sixth lesson, the comfort you are chasing is the end of your life, and it does not arrive as a tragedy. It arrives as a good offer.
I am not chasing comfort. I am chasing stability, which is different.
Let us see whether it is. There is a passage where he describes the worst possible future, and what is frightening is that there is no monster in it. He calls the figure the last man, and the last man is not cruel, not stupid, not unhappy. He is the most comfortable being that has ever existed. He has invented happiness, the text says, and he blinks. He has his little pleasure for the day and his little pleasure for the night. He works because work is a distraction. He becomes neither poor nor rich because both are too much trouble. Nobody rules and nobody obeys. Everyone wants the same thing. Everyone is the same. And whoever feels differently goes voluntarily into the madhouse. And here is the terrible part. When he describes this to the crowd expecting them to recoil, the crowd applauds and shouts, "Give us that one. Give us the last man."
And today that would be what? Exactly.
You know what it would be. It is the day that passes without anything touching you. It is the whole evening consumed by small pleasures that leave no mark, of which you remember nothing the next morning. It is the decision postponed because the current situation is bearable. And bearable is the poison. Nothing is bad enough to force a change, and nothing is good enough to justify the rest.
But I have responsibilities. Not everyone can simply destroy their life in the name of intensity.
And you're right, and that is a necessary correction, because he was read criminally by people who use this as an excuse to be destructive. He is not asking for chaos. He is pointing at something very specific. The difference between a life organized around something you want and a life organized around not feeling anything too much. From the outside, the two look identical. Both have routine, paid bills, calm. Inside, they are opposites. A calm that protects a piece of work is one thing. A calm that exists so that nothing will happen is another. And the test, again, is simple and hard to run. Is there anything in your life today that you would not trade for more comfort?
And if the answer is no?
If the answer is no, the problem is not that you are in danger. It is that you are safe, and that this is all you have. So, the sixth lesson: the end of a life does not arrive as a disaster. It arrives as a reasonable offer day after day, and it is called bearable. The last man is not a monster. He is someone who traded everything for not feeling anything too much, and the question is whether there is anything in your life you would refuse to trade for more comfort. Seventh lesson: the thing you call I is not a person. It is a committee, and you only hear whoever shouts loudest.
That sounds mystical.
It is the opposite of mystical. He is the one who removed the soul from the conversation, not me. The inherited idea is that there is a you in there, a unity, that observes, decides, and acts. Nietzsche said that is an illusion of grammar. We say I think, and the sentence needs a subject before the verb. So we invent a subject that thinks. But the thought comes when it wants to, not when you call it. He wrote it almost in those words. A thought comes when it wishes, and not when I wish. What exists in place of the I is a crowd of drives. One wants rest, another wants work, one wants to be loved, another wants to be alone, one wants the sweet thing, another wants the thin body. They do not converse, they compete. And what you call your will is simply the name of the drive that won the contest that time, felt from inside the winner.
So I decide nothing. That is a perfect excuse to do nothing.
It would be if he stopped there. He does not stop, because he did not conclude that you are a passenger. He concluded that you are responsible for something different from what you thought. You are not the general given the order. You are the one who arranges the committee. You choose who enters the room, what those people hear every day, which drives get fed and which are left without a stage. He spoke of giving style to one's character, and said it is practiced by those who survey all the strengths of their nature and then fit them into a plan, until every one of them appears as art and reason.
So I do not command the drives. I decide their diet.
You decide their diet. And that explains something that has frustrated you for years: why willpower fails and environment works. Willpower is one drive trying to shout louder than another, and it tires. Environment changes who is in the room, and it explains something else, more useful. When you hate yourself over a relapse, you're punishing an entire person for a minority vote. There was no betrayal. There was a contest you lost because you did not prepare the ground. That is less dramatic and far more repairable. So, the seventh lesson: there is no single you making decisions. There is a permanent contest of drives, and what you call will is the name of the winner. You do not control the outcome of each contest. You control who is in the room, and that is the only lever that has ever worked. Eighth lesson. It is the heaviest of the night, so breathe first. Imagine that one night, on your loneliest night, a demon came into your room and said, "This life, as you have lived it and still will live it, you will have to live once more and countless times more. Nothing new in it. Every pain, every joy, every thought, every sigh, everything in the same sequence, including this spider and this moonlight between the trees, and including this moment and myself. The hourglass of existence will be turned over again and again, and you with it." His question is not whether that is true. The question is, would you throw yourself down, gnashing your teeth and cursing the demon? Or have you ever lived a moment in which you would answer, "You are a god, and I have never heard anything more divine"?
I would throw myself down, without hesitating.
I know. Almost everyone throws themselves down. And look at what that question really is. It is not a theory about the universe. It is a scale. He called it the greatest weight himself. It is the heaviest weight that can be laid on an action, because we judge our lives with a trick. We judge them by the future. This is bad now, but it is temporary, it is a phase, it is an investment, it gets better later. And so you can accept anything indefinitely, because nothing is final. The waitin' again, Silas, always the waitin'. Eternal recurrence tears the future out of the calculation. If this repeats forever, exactly like this, then this here is not the road to anything. This is the thing. This week is not the preparation for your life. It is your life, and it is coming back.
And if the answer is no to almost everything?
Then you have just received the most useful information you have ever had, and it is free. Use it like this. Do not ask whether you want your whole life again, because the answer will be no, and you will lose heart. Ask piece by piece. This job, forever. This conversation you keep postponing, postponed forever. This evening, exactly as you are about to spend it, repeated infinitely. The answer arrives fast, and it does not lie, because it does not go through the head, it goes through the stomach.
And the things I cannot change.
Then the question becomes another one, and it returns to the third lesson. It is not, do you want this again? It is, are you able to stop demanding that it had been different? Because demanding that the past change is the only genuinely impossible task there is, and it consumes an absurd quantity of life per day. So, the eighth lesson, ask whether you would live this again, infinitely with no change. Not as metaphysics, as a scale. Whatever you would not repeat is either something that has to end, or something that has to stop being demanded of the past. And there is no third option. And if that question just landed on you, if you immediately thought of one specific thing you would not live again, write it down below. You do not have to explain. Naming it is already the beginning. Ninth lesson, Silas, and the last. Become who you are.
I have seen that sentence printed on a mug. It is empty.
It was emptied, which is different. Today, it is read as be yourself, as if there were a finished you inside, authentic, waiting to be released from its disguises. If you are paying attention to the last two lessons, you already know that is false. There is no finished you. There is a committee and an envy of meaning.
Then what does the sentence mean?
Look at the verb, become. It is work, and it is in the future, and he himself wrote that a human being is a rope stretched between the animal and something greater, a rope over an abyss, not a state, a crossing, and he was more specific than people usually report. He spoke of giving style to one's character. Style, the word of an artist. Not discovering the character, not accepting the character. Working it like a man working a material that has its own grain and resists. You did not choose the material. You chose whether it gets cut or stays as it fell.
And the parts of me I hate.
Those are the most interesting part of the work, and he says something almost nobody expects from him. That even the ugly, which could not be removed, should be so fitted that it comes to seem sublime. Not erased, placed in the right position within the whole, until it serves. Your impatience in one place destroys your life, and in another makes you refuse what is not good enough. Your obsession in one place isolates you, and in another builds the only thing you ever made that was any good. There is no bad character. There is badly placed character.
And how do I know whether I am doing that or just deceiving myself?
By one thing only, and it is verifiable, by the willingness to repeat. Go back to the 8th lesson. A life you built with style is a life about which the question of eternal recurrence stops being terrifying in some places. Not all, some. And increasing the number of those places is the only definition of progress he would accept. So, the 9th lesson, there is no authentic you waiting to be found. There is a material with its own grain and a crossing. Become who you are is not a permission to be as you already are. It is a work order, and the measure of the work is how much of your life you would repeat. Put it all together now, in one piece, the way it sounds when it is whole. Nobody is coming, and the emptiness you feel is the mold of a belief you dropped without dropping the habit of waiting. There is no task set aside for you, and that is why the task can finally be yours, made and not found. What hurt you is a thread in the fabric and not a defect in it, and demanding that it had been otherwise is the only impossible work there is. A great deal of your morality is a wound that learned to speak beautifully, and the test is whether it survives without an adversary. You never wanted contentment. You want the sensation of overcoming resistance. So the right question is not how do I avoid difficulty, but which difficulty is worth my life. The end does not arrive as a disaster. It arrives as a reasonable offer called bearable. There is no you that decides. There is a room full of drives, and what you control is who gets into it. Ask of everything whether you would live it again, forever, and listen for the answer in your stomach. And then work the material you did not choose until more parts of your life pass that test. And that is everything he has, Silas. There is no promise at the end. There is a pen, a hard material, and a number of years nobody knows.
And nobody is coming.
Nobody is coming. And tonight, that is the first thing you have truly known in a long time. If any of those 9 landed on you, if you recognized in one of them something you already felt but had never managed to name, write it down below. Which of the 9 was it? Not the most beautiful one, the uncomfortable one, the one you heard and immediately wanted to argue with. It is always that one, and you know which it is. If tonight gave you a relief you had been looking for on your own, leave a like. It helps this video find other people who are awake right now for the same reason. And subscribe if you want to go deeper. This channel is not for everyone. It is for people who ask the question all the way down, even when the answer does not console. Next week, same hour, the 2 of us return to Nietzsche, and we return through the hardest door of all, the one you most want to exist, and the one he dismantles first. 9 dark lessons on love. Until then, Silas, and to all of you who listen this far, waiting for a signal that never came, keep one question. If nobody is coming, and nobody ever was, what would you do tomorrow morning that you are not doing only because you are still waiting for permission? Live in a way you would want to live again. Until the next night.